Welcome to these English conversations about Spring Boot interview questions. Welcome, João Gabriel, these conversations, and is the opportunities to improve English and to learn about this important framework for Java language. And there are some questions about Spring Boot. Okay,
All right, let's go.
are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay, and the first question is explain the role of Spring Boot in Microsoft architecture, please.
Well, let's go. Well, as you said, today was going to be more as a reading session. So, Spring Boot simplifies the development and deployment of microservices by providing a suite of tools and frameworks that streamline the setup and configuration processes. It offers features like embedded server, Tomcat, Jetty, for example, production-ready metrics, health checks, and externalized configurations to facilitate easy management of multiple microservices. Spring Boot's opinionated approach reduces the boilerplate code and integrates Jesus can say it seamlessly with Spring Cloud to manage distributed systems concerned such as service discovery, circuit breaks, and load balancing. Well, in a nutshell, actually, it's just explaining that it's batteries included in comparison, like with the Spring per se. So it really facilitates our lives as a developer in the Java ecosystem. And by the way, I think there is another server, just more as out of curiosity. There's another embedded server. I think it's Glassfish. I remember doing a college work where I had to configure a embedded server, and I chose the Glassfish instead of Tomcat because for Java EE on Java 8 without any frameworks was easier to deal with. But all right, so will we intercalate? You ask one and when Anderson another, or all the rounds with me? What will be the dynamic for today meeting?
Okay, and the second questions is how does Spring Boot activities auto configurations and what are its limitations? Okay, and I will answer these questions.
Right.
Okay, Spring Boot activities auto configurations by using enable auto configurations and a set of conditional annotations like conditional on class, conditional on missing bin, etc., to automatically configure Spring Beans based on the class path settings, existing beans, and various properties settings. The meta inf Spring Factories file specifies the configurations classes to be auto-configured. Limitations include potential conflicts with manual configurations, difficult in debugging configurations inserts, and the possibilities of unnecessary components being loaded if not properly excluded. I think there are many configurations for Spring Boot. I'm thinking when I am using a Spring Boot, I usually to use some annotations for configurations like uh, the annotations configurations and the other annotations for Spring Boot. and uh, there is a class with some configurations. Um, for example, with configurations for Spring Security, configurations for um, Spring Data, okay, and the other configurations, okay, and you can give me some example about a kind of configurations for Spring Boot.
I would go with the JPA, for example, that we can extend it. For example, the interface, the Spring JPA interface, we can configure it to achieve a better graining of manage the queries. For example, the CRUD JPA, Spring JPA per se, it's quite limited, and if we want to do some more advanced queries like using JPQL, for example, it's a useful configuration that we can go.
Okay. And the next question is discusses the significance of Spring Boot actuator module in production environments. Can you answer these questions, please?
Sure, can you just slide down? Yeah, that's perfect. Well, the Spring Actuator module provides essential tools for monitoring and managing Spring Boot applications in production. It exposes various endpoints like actuator health, actuator info, actuator metrics, so forth and so on, that offer insights into application health, metrics, environment, properties, and more. This helps administrators and developers to quick diagnose issues, monitor performance, and ensure the application is running as expected. Actuator can be integrated to monitoring systems and is customizable to expose only the necessary endpoints. Talking about the actuator, I think I talked at the WhatsApp group with some of the other developers about how can we configure a Prometheus scraper and how can we expose the metrics from the actuator to Spring and visualize it through Grafana. So there is already a plug and play dashboard from Spring Team persistence from Spring 2, I guess, to Spring 3, I guess. I don't think the 4 iteration has already been developed, but still, and it's really useful because we need to understand how is the health of our application during deployment, during the real usage, not that we cannot append a bug in a server when the client is using. So it's really useful tool. We do not go blind a haze. We do not go blind in a haze. We have this kind of metrics exposed for us developers.
The Spring Boot actuators, it's a important tools for Spring frameworks because you can use this tool for monitoring your applications and to
Renato,
have more informations about the applications. Yeah.
just so sorry
And,
to interpret you, but Alex is on a chat. I think he just did not enter the video. I don't know. I just saw his message. Oh no,
okay.
he's from YouTube. I thought he was here in this room with us.
Good evening, Alex. Welcome these conversations. Okay, and it's this conversation is about Spring Boot. Okay, and some important information about this framework and some tools like Spring Boot actuators. Okay, and okay. And what's your opinion about uh, Spring Boot actuator, João?
Ah, I already talked before. It's a useful tool that Spring exposed to us because we don't go blind a haze at deployment. We have metrics and had the health checks for the application. So it's real powerful, especially if we combine it with Prometheus and Grafana.
Okay. And the next question is how does Spring Boot support security, and what are the best practices for securing Spring Boot applications? I think there are many important practices for securities, like Spring Securities and the OAuth 2. Okay, I think it's important is to have a good practice for securities in your applications. Use the Spring Securities and OAuth 2, and use the JWT, okay,
The
or
Jolt.
token, yeah. What is your opinion
Well,
about
definitely.
Spring Securities?
Well, confess I never worked with Spring Security before, never going at in depth, but it's a useful tool. Uh, it's already abstract so many things for us to deal with, like security, like CSRF and XSS injections, and the SQL injection per se as well. So it facilitates our lives as developers to refrain making our projects exposed for bad intent for bad people with bad intentions. And by the way, just as we touched on the topic of security and OAuth 2, a key cloak. Have you ever heard about the tool? It's made with Java. So yeah, live and learning. So useful tool to deal with OAuth 2 and life cycle of tokens. So definitely
Yes.
a must.
There are some solutions, including authentications and authorizations. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking uh, when I am learning Spring Securities, it's important is to have acknowledges about the authentications and authorizations. Okay, I think it's a basis of Spring Securities. Okay, because uh, when I am developing a project is it's very common to use the authentications and authorizations. Uh, for example, application web
Yep.
using login with authentications and authorizations, and to have many users to access the applications uh, with the authorizations and the authentications. Okay, uh,
Y-
it's it's common to use a token with some informations about that users. Okay, like email, like like role of
Yeah, yeah,
these uses. Yeah.
yeah. And I will send just a picture at the YouTube chat as we are talking about authentication authorization. It's pretty common to when we are learning the basics. There's a catch that, or better say, a pitfall, because people might be confused. That, hey, what's the difference between them? Aren't they the same? But no. Uh, Authorization is basically saying, hey, can you do that? For example, you have a role in the system, but you cannot access like an admin a certain part of the admin panel for deleting products. You just can visualize it. And meanwhile, the authentication, hey, like the password, the user and the password. You can enter it, but it doesn't mean that you can do anything inside it. You just, for example, can see things. I will attach a link at YouTube chat, so if anyone is interested, just yeah, I just sent it through Image UR because it's simpler, but just make reach our conversation here. So let's continue to
Okay.
question number 5.
What are Spring Boot starters and how do they simplify dependency management?
Just lie down a bit. Well, the Spring Boot starter are a set of convenient dependency descriptions that simplify dependency management by aggregating commonly used dependencies into a single starter package. For example, Spring Boot Starter Web includes dependencies for Spring MVC, Jackson, and an embedded Tomcat server. Ah, so that's why it's bring when we clone a project from Spring Initialize. Neat. This abstraction reduces the need of to specify individual dependencies and ensure compatibility among included libraries. Starters streamline the setup process and provide a consistent base for application development, allowing the developer to focus more on a business logic and configuration. Well, it really does wire up with the first topic and of how Spring Boot facilitates our lives as developers with microservices because it just wired things up. It's like a bootstrap, for example. Let's say using this kind of analogy because it's more like a plug and play than hey, we need to reinvent the wheel. No, it's already everything well abstracted. So yeah,
Okay. I think there are many Spring Boot starters for applications. I think you can use many starters in your applications, like Spring MVC Jacksons and the others. But I am talking about dependencies for your applications. For example, um, when I am developing a project, is I use some starters for my project is like Spring Data and the Spring Security and the others. But um I I usually to have some starters for my applications. Okay, and I think it simplify my projects because there are many dependencies uh, for these projects, uh, and I think it's compared to other technologies uh, several for example,
yep,
you can have many configurations for your servlet, but in your applications with Spring Boot, uh, it's facilitates the configurations for these projects because there are uh, many solutions, yeah, with Spring Boot.
yeah, definitely. So I was just answering Alex in the chat because he's today. It's his first participation is today, so I was just helping him saying that we do it every Thursday on Discord, and today is the last Thursday of the month. We are doing like a live event, and it's the first one that we are doing. So From the 6 vacancies that I had here, just 2 of us managed to enter, but technical difficulties, I guess. Well, okay. How do you create a simple RESTful web service using Spring Boot? Well, the first step is create a. Actually, did I answer the last one, Renato? I'm really really slow today. I had a really rough day on the work, so my mind is like Dory from Find Nemo. I'm forgetting things really fast.
Yes, and what's the opinion about the process of this these projects? There are uh, some
The few steps, like it's the first step that we usually tend to do when configuring a Spring Boot project is use your IDE that does offer support for sure, like IntelliJ Ultimate, and I think they're still having an extension for NetBeans, so you can start the project from that as well. There is Eclipse IDE as well that you can start the project whole from there. But the most common thing, Visual Studio Code with the Spring Boot extension, you can do it as well. But the most common steps going through Spring Initializer because it's more user friendly and you have basically all the startup dependencies there that you just can download as a zip file. And the cool thing that they added the YAML configuration as well instead of just application properties. Um, we do not we do not need to add manually the Spring Boot starter web at the pom.xml because it's already plug and play if we clone from Spring Initialize or if we start from IDE. So it's more common if we do it using the raw Spring, not the Spring Boot, which is already wired up. And to create a class is simple as a breeze. We just create a class, for example, as the image below called my controller, and annotate it with the REST controller and a request mapping just to have a base route and basically start using it. For example, can you slide down a bit more, Renato, please, just to get the rest of the code?
okay. Before we continue, I was talking about the processes of creating a project is, with Spring Boot. Uh, for example, um, I think it's common to use Spring Initialize to create a project with Spring Boot. Uh, Depends on the IDE, but
Yep,
I think many developers use the IntelliJ IDEA to create a project with Spring Boot. Okay, for example, the IntelliJ IDEA community is free, but uh, there is the other. Uh,
you mean the
um,
ultimate, the one
idea,
which comes
yes,
here.
there's the ultimate IntelliJ IDEA. Yeah, you can create it a project with Spring Boot is in your IDE
Yep,
Ultimate. Okay, and then but about the other IDE, uh, like uh, Eclipse, you can use the Spring Tools.
yep.
Yeah, but is there is others ideas like uh, Visual Code Studio. You can create a project with Spring Boot is in Visual Studio Code.
Yeah,
Okay,
yep.
but let's continue. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was talking about the license notation that we had in this example with is the get mapping, but as we see as the number 4 step, we can, for example, use like a post mapping, a patch mapping, a put mapping, and delete mapping, and so forth, so on. Plus the parameters that we can pass to the route in the project, like query parameters and so forth, so on. It's pretty straight. It is pretty straightforward when we develop with Spring. Things get really a really smooth developer experience.
Okay, it's a simple endpoint is with Spring framework,
Yeah,
and I can explain about these simple endpoints. You can this endpoint is uh, the returning a messages the hello world. Yes, it's a get mapping to return a messages in your applications. Okay, I think it's not difficult to understand this endpoint. Okay, for me, yeah, but it's very simple, yeah, to
yeah, yeah.
understand.
Yeah, just simple hello world returning a string.
Yeah, the hello world is common. For example, I'm thinking many developers. The first project is two implementations are Relo World. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very common when when is learning about Java language. Okay, and the next questions is how do you connect a Spring Boot applications for to a MySQL database?
well, I think it's your turn now, no? Isn't it?
And can you explain about the connections with the MySQL databases in your applications, Spring
Uh,
Boot?
yeah, I can. I was just asking because I thought it was your turn now to read it. But all right. Well, the first step is to download the driver, which is my SQL connector, and it will be appended to pon.xml. We can do it see for the conception from the project from Spring initialize, or we can add it manually from Maven repository and then refresh the pon.xml. And the next step is to configure the properties, the application.properties or the application.yaml if you prefer this extension, pointing to the data URL using the JDBC driver, the server, which when we are learning we tend to use localhost, but if you are using like in a MySQL instance running in a different computer or even on AWS would be a different host IP. The port, which traditionally for MySQL is the 3306, but can change. You can manually change, but it's out of the scope. And the database name per se, which it's the MyDB in this example. Then we have the username, this case, which is just a test database, it's root, a password, this case secret, and allowing the JPA, the Spring JPA to generate the DDLs every time we change. For example, we extend an entity or create a new one, it will create for us like it's a different approach like instead of migrations from flyway. But the next logical step is to create an entity class, in this case yeah, for sure, Alex, it's the signature for every developer, the hello world, no matter if it's assembly, C++, Java. And need to have some annotations, for example the add entity which just maps our C sharp, no, a Java class into a user table, and it's not exclusively for MySQL, but it's used for another relational database as well, like Postgres, SQL Server. The ID notation just to say, hey, this field will be a primary key, and we need to explain to Spring, hey, the generated value will be a generated type of identity. In this case, we'll generate 1, 2, 3, 4, yada yada, because we configured the field as a long, not a new UID. And the other columns, in this case, just a string name, which will be automatically mapped by the ORM, but we can extend it using other notations like table name, I guess. So in a nutshell, that's how we can configure the MySQL how we configure Java project using Spring to work with MySQL or DBMS.
Yeah. Uh, I usually to create is configuration databases in my applications with MySQL databases or PostgreSQL. Okay. Uh, but about these configurations, uh, you can you can have your username and password and the URL of uh, the applications, the databases, and to create a databases. Uh, uh, and I'm thinking is the principal configurations for databases. Okay, and about these classes, it's very simple. It's a classes of user with EID and name and use some annotations like ID and the generated value to create this primary key in your databases to generate primary key. Okay, but it's it's simple.
Yeah,
And let's continue. And the repository, okay,
yeah,
it's common to create a repository for this entity.
yeah. Especially that we can extend for how can I say it, such a specific class. The JPA repository, if we, it's actually no, I almost said a misled thing. Yeah, we need to create a repository as well, and there is another way we can there is another interface that we can extend, which in contrast to JPA repository, which has more methods, for example, the pageable, sortable, and so forth and so on, we can use the CRUD repository for simpler applications. So it's tend to be a bit faster because it has less methods inside to compile. So yeah, important to
Yes,
extend the JPA repository to create this interface.
is important is to create repositories to persist is dates of databases. Okay, and this example is about user entities to persist is the attributes of a user in your database. Okay. And the next questions, how do you handle exceptions globally in a Spring Boot applications?
Well, the first thing is to create a global exception handler class, which we decorated with a notation called control device. And we need as well the exception handler to handle the exceptions globally. So instead of try catch in every single corner from our code, we can lead, hey Spring, if any problem happens here, you will help us to return the best exception with code errors and how we can offer a better developer experience for the developer who's coding this project.
Okay. It's important is to have a classes with exception handler, yeah, to have some exceptions in your applications, like not found exceptions, like exceptions, and the others exceptions common to validate your applications. It's common to use some exceptions for validates data, like email, for example,
Yeah,
and the other dates. Uh, uh, Important is I think it's there are it's then there are not duplicate states in your databases. For example, email duplicates in your databases. I think it's important is to have a validates with email. Okay, and the these classes you can implementations many exceptions. It's it's not necessary to have a try catches in your
yeah,
applications. Yeah, it's a better practice to implementations a global exception handler.
yeah. It makes the code cleaner. Plus, we can concentrate, as you said, our like custom exceptions inside the controller device. So yeah, definitely makes our life easier.
And
Yeah,
it's
just
a
continue.
response entities, yeah, with the exceptions. Uh, it's common to have exceptions like internal server error, yeah, um, and there are some HTTP status like and the 500 and the uh,
400 better request, 404 not found,
104
so on.
and the others like uh, for 403 not permissions, yeah, not and the 401 no authorized, yeah, to
Yeah,
and it is there other HTTP status for applications.
we could do the whole night talking about each of them. For example, 200, okay, 204 no content. There are many of them. There is, I think, 512. It's or 409 actually, which I saw recently, which is the conflict. So
As conflict, yeah, it's
yeah, like
important
a
is
resource already exists. For example, like you said about the email, hey, we need to validate it if this email already exists in the database. So instead of return like a bad request, the most appropriate would be like a 405, a 409, which is a conflict with the application per se.
yeah. Is there a post of status HTTP uh, in on LinkedIn community? Yeah, it's to to have a there are many informations about status HTTPs. Yeah, um, and it's very important is to create its exceptions, yeah, and to and it don't have many don't have problems with the applications, yeah, and the exceptions. Uh, it's important because uh, you can you can have informations about the problem, yeah, about uh, the exceptions in your applications, yeah.
Yeah.
The next question is how do you use Spring Boot dev tools to enhance the development experience?
Well, this will be quite polemical, but I tried to use the dev tools to have hot reload, but it never ever worked. Like the automatic restarts better saying live reloads and configuration for fast development, but I never managed to make it work. For example, hey, I changed here this status code from a 200 to a 204. I had to stop the whole application, recompile it out again. In theory, it's really neat tool that Spring Dev team offer to us developers, but I never have had the good experiences with it. I do know about you, Renato, but I really wish I could have used hot reload in my applications in my application.
I don't usually to have these dependencies in my project. Is I think it's necessary uh, when I am developer uh, my project is because when I, for example, when I am saving a code, yeah, and this dependency can help me uh, to up in my application, yeah.
Yeah,
And the next questions is how do you configure cushions endpoints in Spring Boot Actuator?
just a sec. Aha. I- Well, we need to implement a custom actuator endpointing by creating a bin of type endpoint. So we decorated with a component bin, with a component annotation, excuse me, and make it and create a method just to return a read operation like we saw the previous example like a hello world, but instead of create a get mapping, it will not be like a HTTP verb at all. I think I have an example here that again I showed at the WhatsApp group where I had to configure the actuator to expose to Grafana. So oh balls, I did not configure an extra bin. I used all directly at the controller and just exposed it via the application.property. So never mind. But yeah, it's simple. It's simple as just creating a component bin and enabling it at the application.properties. By the way, I think it would be a really neat idea. The next presentation we talk about Grafana and Prometheus at the English conversation, or even at the learning sessions from the Brazil JUG lives, the Portuguese one, because it's really useful. But just an idea here in this live.
Okay,
Yeah, I think there's more. Yeah, so yeah, it just need to configure the application.properties.
And the
So,
next question is, how do you implement paginators and sortings in a Spring Boot application?
oh boy, that's a neat part. We need to extend the paging and sorting repository. Spring makes it so easy for us because we do not to create an extra class which will envelop like, hey, a page number, page total of items, yada yada. So it's just as simple as extend a custom repository from Spring API. Uh, and we at our services or controllers we need to use the pageable and the page request object per se. So if you object, no, sorry, class. So if you can scroll down a bit, just a bit more, because we are at the get mapping. Would like to see the whole controller. No, when you need to scroll a bit more. Oh, Renato. Here we go. So, oh boy, yeah. So it is simple as that. We just return a page, which is accepts a generic as an argument, which in this case the user, a pageable um, object, and we make it returning at our controller endpoint. I have a better, a more mature actually, an example which I can let here at the YouTube chat, because not only that, the paging and sorting repository, as the name implies, we not only page, we can sort, we can filter, we can do every kind of an operation that we would like to do a more fine-grained SQL at a database. Like, hey, I want to find the the first page, only 10 items ordered by the user ID in a descending order, for example. So it makes our lives pretty easy. We just get the repository here and let at the YouTube chat. So if anyone would like to give it a shot, it's the branch called pagination. Yeah, called pagination. So, oh boy, where is YouTube? Oh, I closed the live at YouTube. That explains a lot. Just a sec. Technical difficulties here. Bear with us. And here it is. So yeah, it's simple as that. I think that we might have an example of the service layer. No, it will not have because it's calling the repository directly. So and at 8:53 p.m. Time's up.
Okay. Let's finish these conversations uh, at 9 p.m. Yeah. Okay.
All right, because we tend to finish it 10 minutes earlier at Discord, but okay, let's go to 9. No problems at all. So,
And the next questions is, how do you implement paginations and I
yeah,
think they're the
do
same questions.
yeah, I thought we had a deja vu.
Okay, but
Yeah, just extending about this topic, yeah, for anyone who is not familiar with the pagination concept, is instead of, for example, your database gets bigger, you have like a million of users. You would not like to get the million of users in a single request. You would like, hey, I would like to bring in a first page, 10 users, and a second page, more 10, or even 100, but never the whole database content per se, because it's a death penalty at your network traffic. And the
yes,
sorting,
I
this
think that
part,
the advantages of using paginated is, for example, to to return data uh, with it. For example, I can return some pages with dates. The page one to page 10, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm thinking uh, it's not necessary to return all every dates. Yeah, every dates of your databases. Yeah, because imagine is to have millions dates in
yeah,
your database. Yeah, but use paginates it's facilitates to return minus dates. Yeah, in your
yeah.
applications. And how do you configure and use a custom banner in a Spring Boot applications?
Oh, the banner you mean like the console art? Oh boy, that's new for me, but just place a banner.txt file at source main resort directory with your custom banner text, and you can use the ASCII art generator to create the text. Oh boy, it's this simple as that. It's like it's useless, but it's for a real life project. But at the same time, it's a neat trick that Spring offers to us to log at the console. But yeah, still,
Okay. How do you integrate Spring Boot with Kafka?
well, quite similar as previous. The first step is to add the dependency at the pom.xml, or if you are using another dependency management system like Gradle, feel free do the same, but using the Gradle syntax. And we need to scroll down a bit because I never ever worked with Kafka at Spring Boot, just on .NET. But I think the next, yeah, we need to configure. I forgot we have to configure the applications on property with the Bootstrap server and the consumer as well, which by the way Kafka works in quite some way like RabbitMQ. It works as a pub subsystem, but for more high throughput rate. And Alex will go till 9 p.m. So if you'd like to stay with us just a little bit more, just 3 minutes tops. So, if not, hey, have a good night. It will be saved. This stream will be saved. So the example is using the consumer group, which called just the my group, and using localhost as well, and the port 992, it's the standard Kafka port, and we need to create our in this case producer and then the consumer bin, which receives a key, in this case a string, and a value, which is a string as well. I think we could do it like using a generic instead of just a string for the value, and yeah, but would be a more advanced topic. And say the way we need to create the producer factory to create the producer per se. By the way, just extending a bit of this topic, there is a really neat tool for to deal with Kafka and a user graphical interface way, which is called Kafka IO, which by the way is made with Java as well. Kafka per se is made with Java, but this graphical user tool, is made with Java as well. And yeah, and there is more code, which is the listener, where we are now consuming the topic. We have the Kafka, we have the notation Kafka listener, which will pass as an argument the topic name, the group ID, what we will receive as a parameter, in this case the message, and we just log in the console a really simple example, which is the message that we send through the network. By the way, Kafka is really useful for the distributed systems and the micro Oh boy, I forgot microservices as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very common to use a Kafka with microservices applications to integrate these services like uses with email, okay, for messages, okay.
yeah,
I can send messages for uh, my user, yeah. I can send an email for my users, and um, uh, I can use it the solutions Kafka or HTML for send messages. Yeah, the integrates with two services.
yeah. Where I currently working today, we have been using Kafka for the previous 6 7 months or so. But because we work with event-driven designer, we need to send some information through Kafka to an external system, which is orchestrated with Apache NiFi, which, by the way, as well is made with Java. But yeah, I think our time is up. 9 p.m.
Okay. Uh, Thanks for participating in these English conversations. I think it was a great opportunities to learn about Spring Boot, yeah, and to have more information about this important framework for Java language. Okay, and thanks for developers to participate in these English conversations. Okay, and follow the YouTube channels. Okay, to give a like this live. Okay, and thanks, João, yeah, for participating. Yeah, to contribute with our communities. Yeah, and some informations.
Was just typing the Brazil JUJ LinkedIn profile here at the YouTube channel, so anyone willing to follow, feel free. As I talked with Alex in
Yes,
the beginning, we every Thursday we have this kind of meeting at Discord channel, which
ever
you can.
studies on Discord channels. Yeah, and
Yeah,
is there a QR codes with our social medias, these Java communities? Yeah, and see you next conversation.
that's it, guys. Bye for now. Until next Thursday.
Bye bye. Good
Bye bye.
night.
Evening.